Good evening, everyone. Namaskar and welcome to this special evening hosted by Small Industries Development Bank of India. आज की शाम एक विशेष अवसर है, an evening where we start a series of sharing expert insights on the theme Nurturing Global Champions from Indian MSMEs and Startups. This isn't just a ceremonial event, this is a start of a strategic conversation. We are here to explore how India can build enterprises that don't just survive, but thrive on the global stage. India's MSME sector is vast with over 7.3 crore estimated MSMEs employing around 26 crore employees. It also contributes 30% to the GDP. Our startup ecosystem is the third largest globally with over 100 unicorns. However, just the size isn't enough. To become a global champion, we need to give these businesses access to capital, mentorship, technology, and policy support. This evening, we're bringing together some of the finest minds in finance, policy, and entrepreneurship, leaders who've shaped national discourse and mentored the next generation of founders. To mark this auspicious beginning, I request all of our dignitaries to kindly come forward for the ceremonial lamp lighting. I invite Shri Manoj Mittal, Chairman and Managing Director of SIDBI, our esteemed Chief Guest, Shri M. Nagaraju, IAS, Secretary, Department of Financial Services, Shri Madhusudan Kela, Founder of MK Ventures, Shri Gopal Srinivasan, Chairman and Managing Director of TVS Capital Funds, and Shri Manoj Ayappan, Joint Secretary of Department of Financial Services. Please give them a big round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in giving them all a big round of applause as we welcome them one by one on the stage. I request Shri Manoj Mittal, sir, to kindly extend a warm welcome to each of our guests as they come on stage. To begin, it is now our honor to invite our chief guest for the evening, Shri M. Nagaraju, IAS, Secretary, Department of Financial Services. Next, we welcome our distinguished speaker, Shri Madhusudan Kela, founder of MK Ventures. We are also privileged to welcome Shri Gopal Srinivasan, Chairman and Managing Director of TVS Capital Funds. Joining us today is Shri Manoj Ayappan, Joint Secretary of Department of Financial Services. We are delighted to have him with us. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving them all another big round of applause. Up next, we have a welcome address by Shri Manoj Mittal. Thank you, sir. Please.
Respected Shri M. Nagaraju, Secretary, Department of Financial Services, respected Shri Manoj Appan, JS, DFS, Mr. Srinivasan, TVS Capital Funds, Mr. Kela, MK Ventures, esteemed MDs, RBI, CGM, MDs and CEOs of banks and NBFCs, and my distinguished colleagues from the BFSI sector. It's a proud privilege to welcome you all today. And this is an important assembly. It's just not ceremonial. And the topic is of national importance, nurturing global champions from India's MSME and startup sector. A lot of people have been asking me, what's the objective of this event? So let me do some context setting over here. Guided by the vision of Honorable Prime Minister, we collectively carry the responsibility of enabling India to become a developed nation by 2047. And to achieve this, it is imperative that we move beyond traditional growth models. In this journey, MSME and startup, both sectors would be the fulcrum. We also discussed this today in a meet of IBA with the MSME associations. Now, there are two words here, MSMEs and startups. So if I take a startup ecosystem, we have got some very good speakers on the topic, so I won't dwell that into too much, but third largest ecosystem in the world, mainly on the strength of 1.9 lakh DPIIT recognized startups and 118 unicorns in the country. So as of date, the startup, as on March 31st, 2025, the investments made by AIFs in the startups stood at about 20,000 crores of rupees. Though the cumulative net investments amounted by these AIFs is about 5,40,000 crore rupees. So AIFs invested a huge amount of money, but only a percentage of that, a small percentage has gone to the startups. There are about 1,526 registered AIFs as on March end. A few years back, 10 years back, the number was around 110, 120. So 120 to 1,600, 1,526 to be precise. So that's a big jump. That's a big jump, and a lot of investments in the startup space are happening through AIF route only. But through FFS, while these numbers appear big, but through FFS, which has been a major instrument to promote the startup system in the country, nearly 1,300 startups have been assisted by the AIFs under FFS 1.0. So out of 1.9 lakh AIFs, the investments have gone into 1,300. So that's a number which we need to deliberate about. And when we see the structure where this investment has gone, IT and IT-enabled service 17%, healthcare 11%, financial services 15%, consumer goods 6.5%, food and beverages 6.39%. When it's a question of deep tech or space and all, so it's limited, very, very minuscule investment which has gone into that data. A very interesting data globally here is that out of the value generated by VC-backed startups between 1990 to 2024, last 35 years, 90%, 95% of the companies that generated valuation of $100 billion plus are concentrated in the US and Europe only. Only one or two come from the China. There is none from India. So $100 billion plus startups, valuation startups, they are not existing in the country. So we need to be more aspirational and create more attack-based product companies. Government is doing its bit. After FFS 1.0, FFS 2.0 is coming with a focus on the deep tech. There is a RDI scheme which is coming with a corpus of 1 lakh crore of rupees. There is a space tech fund announced, again going to be managed by SIDBI. And there are other products which are coming. And for a petroleum sector, there is a new fund for startup which is being planned. But bank funding for the startup is still a challenge. And there is a need to encourage a flow of both equity and debt for the startups. Otherwise, AIFs, this kind of capital going only for 1,300 startups out of 1.9 lakh registered. I think we need to increase that scale and also get into the newer areas, new age technologies. Now coming to the second piece, SMEs, everybody knows its contribution. I don't get into that. But there is a gap. We all recognize there is a gap, though we have grown at a pace of about 15% per annum, but MSME credit does exist. And MSMEs prefer to grow horizontally. I mean, for an MSME entrepreneur, it's much easier to set up another MSME rather to scale this MSMEs. Reasons could be many. There could be, but the whole ecosystem promotes setting up another MSME. And that's why they are dwarfed, their growth is stunted, they are not able to make it large. They are not able to make it large. And one of the reasons which we have noticed at SIDBI is its lack of equity. It's always a leverage which he can have, so probably it helps him to have parallel units, so many units, rather trying to have one big unit. So it's equity besides so many other factors, and when we see equity, one of the good route here is MSME IPOs. And what we realize is out of so many, 7 crore, more than 7 crore and now, but even if out of VC, there would be a few lakhs units in the small and medium enterprises. Out of that, it's just around 1,000 units which have gone public. Last year, it was 241, biggest number which the units have gone public. So all these units, why they are not able to go public, this could be their unpreparedness for raising funds from the market, their lack of equity from the market. So these are two fields which I say, when the world is witnessing geopolitical tensions and tariff wars, and negotiations are happening at a company level. You will manufacture this particular product here, you will not manufacture it here, you will do, TikTok is a part of the negotiations. When this is happening, where are the global companies from India? So that's where we realize MSMEs and the startup have to up their ante, but they can't walk this path alone. They require handholding at every stage, from market access to affordable credit and timely advice to mentorship, governance support, and other things. While government has been doing its bit, as I said, it's now our turn, the bank's turn. At SIDBI, we have been developing ecosystems like the role of a DFI, from CGTMSC to Mudra to SIDBI Venture, or microfinance institutions to a small finance bank. And of late, Fund of Funds for Startups are working for the development of the startup culture in the country. But what we realize is it's not possible for SIDBI to do anything alone. We may be good at a few things, maybe at a seed stage or small enterprise stage. We strongly believe that other financial sector players, banks and other players, have to come in play to make it bigger. And actually, there are no formal linkages. I was just discussing here, once it crosses a certain stage, SIDBI refuses to give money. You are going beyond me. When it goes to some other banks, it falls in the zone of a particular bank, and he says, okay, I'll take you up to the mid-corporate level and all. So we do not have any kind of an integrated path for a high-growth startup or a high-growth company hand-holding for the next 10 to 15 years. Equity, debt, access to the market, mentorship, best of the facilities. How do we do that in a collaborative manner? This is what this question has been crossing our mind. And we thought probably it's not possible for SIDBI to handle it alone, and let's talk to the other fellows, let's talk to the banking fraternity at large. And that's why this event. So this is the beginning of the series. Hopefully during the deliberation we'll hear more from you. Without taking much of time, it's an honor to welcome again our Secretary, sir, and also Mr. Gopal Srinivasan, Mr. Ayappan, and Mr. Madhu Kela. I welcome, and thanks a lot for making it today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for those insights on MSME ecosystem. Up next is our chief guest, Shri M. Nagaraju, IAS Secretary, Department of Financial Services. He's a batch 1993 IAS officer and has served across sectors including tribal development. Sure, sir. Let's welcome him on the stage.
I thought by now everyone knows what I've studied, not studied. It's a complete reputation. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and Mr. Manoj Mittal, Mr. Gopal Subramanian, Mr. Kela, and my colleague Manoj Ayappan, and all my banker colleagues, MDs and CEOs of banks and executive directors, and all other financial sector dignitaries. It's my honor, and also I'm happy to be present here today on a topic which is very dear to all of us, nurturing global champions from MSME and startups. Despite being the third largest ecosystem for startups in the country, I think we still need to have the unicorns that have niche areas in the world. Unlike in the Silicon Valley or New York or even some of the European countries. I think to be not quoted, I think most of the startups we are actually, as Mr. Gopal Subramanian is mentioning to me, that commodity, what is that, delivery startups we have actually. I also personally don't feel that this is the country of our size, we should actually restrict ourselves to these kind of the startups that have been celebrated, which doesn't actually add value. Even if you look at I think all of us are well informed about startup ecosystem in the world. I think every day we keep reading, we keep finding, because many of you are venture capitalists and you're studying the markets. Look at them, some of the startups which were born 5 months, 6 months, 7 months. If we're able to find a credible idea of finding a need and then fulfilling that need with the speed and productivity, and it has a value. Whereas we are not trying to do that. I think these are my initial remarks. Now let me read a few points that we have noted down. In our journey towards Viksit Bharat, the role of micro, small and medium enterprises together with our innovative startups is indispensable. With our 7.3 crore MSMEs, these enterprises are backbone of our economic fabric. Their role in fostering social and economic development is substantial as they facilitate employment generation and enhance livelihood opportunities for a large number of people. MSMEs operate across a diverse range of industries encompassing both manufacturing and services and ranging from traditional rural clusters to advanced urban enterprises. Simultaneously, the Indian startups are emerging as global contenders, driven by cutting-edge technologies, innovative business strategies, and a bold entrepreneurial spirit that is gaining international recognition. It's well known that MSMEs are one of the core engines of the Indian economy. They contribute nearly a third of India's GDP, I think all of us know, employ close to 30 crore people, account for almost half of our exports. An important aspect in the transformation of the MSME sector is the growing presence of women entrepreneurs. Today, women-led MSMEs constitute around 40% of registered MSMEs. These women entrepreneurs are not only generating employment, but also driving innovation and reshaping aspirations for women at large. Despite their considerable contribution to the economy, MSMEs continue to operate below their full potential. This is primarily due to challenges such as limited access to finance, outdated technology, inadequate infrastructure, and restricted market reach. Addressing these structural bottlenecks is imperative to unlock the sector's true growth trajectory. While financial institutions have made commendable progress in enhancing credit flow to the sector, as evidenced in the 13% average growth in MSME credit portfolio between March 2020 and March 2025, access to finance remains a significant concern. A recent SIDBI survey reveals that 35% of the respondents still identify credit access as a major constraint. The estimated credit gap stands at approximately 30 lakh crore as per a SIDBI report, highlighting the urgency for targeted interventions. In fact, today we had a MSME interaction with inviting MSME entrepreneurs from all over the country in the morning at Bank of Baroda. And the major concern is still remains same: access to credit and easier terms, faster credit disbursal. They still remain the major concerns of the industry. Today, many Indian MSMEs are low-tide suppliers in global value chains. They provide components, services, labor, but rarely lead in design, innovation, or branding. This must change for us to become a Viksit Bharat. To thrive in today's dynamic economic landscape, MSMEs must evolve into national and global champions to not only bolster resilience and drive innovation, but also to assert leadership in select niche segments of global value chains. India can draw inspiration from Germany's Mittelstand, renowned for producing hidden champions. Small and medium enterprises that are world leaders in precision engineering, industrial tools, and specialty chemicals. These firms are deeply rooted in their communities, yet globally very competitive. They invest in R&D and build skilled workforces through strong ties with academia. India has the talent, entrepreneurial spirit, and the market scale to replicate this success. But we need to create the right enabling environment. To enable MSMEs to evolve into globally competitive enterprises, we must act on multiple fronts. The role of financial institutions is very crucial. They should move beyond traditional lending, offer value, venture cap debt, revenue-based financing, and ESG-linked credit. Strengthen credit guarantee schemes and risk-sharing mechanisms, and encourage green finance for sustainable MSMEs. The role of industry bodies and large corporates are, they should launch supplier development programs to upgrade MSME capabilities, facilitate mentorship, market access, and digital transformation, encourage co-creation of products and joint ventures. What role academia and research institutions do is, they should promote applied research in collaboration with MSMEs, create regional innovation hubs and incubators in Tier 2 and 3 cities, align skill development programs in the university with the industry needs. As far as the policy and regulatory reforms are concerned, we should actually simplify and reduce compliance burden on MSMEs. Expedite cluster-based development with shared infrastructure and testing labs, facilitate IPR protection, export promotion, and technology upgradation. A robust export strategy is also vital in increasing the manufacturing share of GDP and expanding exports. The Make in India Mittelstand initiative, a collaborative effort between India and Germany, exemplifies this approach. Since its inception in 2015, it has facilitated over 1.4 billion in investments from 151 German SMEs across sectors such as automotive, renewables, construction, consumer goods, electronics, chemicals, and water management. Equally important is the need for capacity building among Indian MSME entrepreneurs. Academia must develop talent through modern, industry-relevant curricula and vocational training, while industry partners should facilitate R&D and technology adoption. The Economic Survey 23-24 stresses the need to reduce regulations and improve coordination with the states as they handle much of the implementation. It also calls for better physical and digital infrastructure like industrial and freight corridors. Major projects such as bullet trains and semiconductor plants can boost related industries and encourage innovation. Over the past decade, Government of India has launched several initiatives to strengthen the MSME sector. Some of these are Udyam Registration Portal, I think all of us know. For artisan, PM Vishwakarma scheme that supports quality enhancement, marketing and financing. And to improve credit access, the government and RBI have revised priority sector lending norms. And we have also enhanced credit guarantee for loans up to 10 crore. And we also operationalized TEDS platform, which is doing very well this year. Last year it has done very well. And RBI also introduced tech-driven frameworks like account aggregator, and we are trying to introduce unified lending interface. And banks also launched the digital-based lending for the MSME. And last year we had done little, but till first quarter we have done extremely well in most of the banks. And on export fund, MSME has set up 65 export facilitation centers to assist with the documentation, financing and training. Under International Cooperation Scheme, MSMEs receive reimbursement for export certifications and trade fair participation. Gem and Jewelry Export Promotion Council has launched common facility centers to provide advanced tools for exports. Ubarte Sitare initiative by SIDBI and Exim Bank supports MSMEs with global potential through loans, equity, and advisory services. Schemes like RoadTep and EPCG offer tax refunds and duty-free capital goods imports to boost competitiveness. The PLA scheme is being expanded to include small textile firms targeting $50 billion in government exports by 2030. The upcoming export promotion mission announced in the last year's budget aims to enhance export competitiveness via trade finance, market access, and relief for MSMEs affected possibly by US tariffs. India's startup ecosystem, now the world's third largest, with over 1.90 lakh recognized startups, many in Tier 2, Tier 3, is driving innovation across sectors. Last year we have announced in the budget the fund for the startups, which is being managed by the SIDBI, which has mobilized over 82,000 crores. The credit guarantee scheme for startups provides guarantees for loans to DPIIT recognized startups. Building on FFS 1, FFS 2.0 was announced. This is what I was mentioning, with an additional 10,000 crore fund. RDA scheme approved in 2025 with 1 lakh crore corpus offers long-term low-interest funding for innovation, including a deep tech fund of funds. 1,000 crore space tech VC fund and a SIDBI's venture debt scheme support emerging startups. To conclude, the vision of nurturing global champions from India's MSMEs and startups is a shared responsibility that requires attention. These enterprises, whether rooted in traditional sectors or pioneering innovation in emerging domains, are central to India's economic transformation. By continuing to remove systemic barriers, expand access to finance and technology, and foster inclusive entrepreneurship across geographies and segments, we can unlock the full potential of Indian enterprises. India has key foundations like guarantee funds, export infrastructure, and RBI policy support. To create more global champions, the ecosystem needs improved risk sharing, data-driven underwriting, longer trade finance, cluster aggregation, and steady export incentives. Banks and lenders offering integrated solutions like finance, insurance, digital onboarding, and advisory can help Indian MSMEs and startups scale internationally. I personally welcome this initiative taken by the SIDBI and the CMD and all the staff, which is focused on generating ideas to nurture global champions from Indian MSMEs and startups. The gathering of leading minds from the BFSI sector at this event holds great potential to drive sustained growth for Indian MSMEs and startups. I extend once again my congratulations to SIDBI for spearheading this valuable effort. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that, sir. I hope that we can actually start nurturing global champions of MSMEs and startups soon, especially with this discourse. Now we invite Sri Madhusudan Kela, founder of MK Ventures.
Respected Mr. Raju, Mr. Mittal, Mr. Srinivasan, Mr. Chand, I am. Yeah, sir, please. Yeah. Thank you so much. Sir, you have already spoken in detail and gave a really good perspective on what the government is doing, how many schemes are there to really support the Indian MSME and the startup ecosystem. So thank you for that comprehensive, I think, write-up and speech. So I would say it's been 35 years of my experience on the capital market side, and I will give a perspective from the other side of what India has seen. So we have laid a phenomenal foundation for our economy with robust banking system, enterprising corporate, very healthy GDP growth rate, stable government, and very reasonable access to capital markets. But the fact still remains, as Mr. Mittal pointed out, that there are hardly few global champions which have come from Indian corporate sector, which we can say very proudly that this company truly belongs to India. But before we, kind of take that step, we have to also look things in perspective, that it takes decades to nurture systems. What happened in America, what happened in China, has not happened in few years. It has taken them decades, and they were clearly at least 20 to 25 years ahead when it comes to nurturing the startup ecosystem and nurturing the smaller enterprises. I would say India has made a significant progress in the last 2 decades, specifically, I would say in the last 10 years. So many new schemes are being nurtured by the government, and to address so many latent problems, like for the first time we are talking about strategic autonomy in the last 10 years. We never spoke about that BrahMos missiles can ever be launched from a country like India. That we didn't have even an idea that 10 years back such a capability actually exists in India. So I would say we are on the path. Government is taking a lot of decisions, but we have to also recognize what they have and what we don't have, and whatever time it will take for us to reach there. So if I look at the American system, the biggest thing which they have, sir, which possibly worth noting, 7.7% of all American profits, I repeat again, 7.7% of all American profits are spent in R&D. For this number, for India, is less than 1%, right? Secondly, they have very large-scale institutions which are being built, whether it is Harvard, Stanford, Yale, they have billions and billions of dollars of corpuses. So obviously their education system is clearly much, much superior. That in a way, a lot of Indian and Chinese students have actually gone and studied in the institutions, and because of lack of opportunities, maybe 10 years back in India, a lot of that talent has actually stayed back into those countries. And it is a matter of proud that if you look at all technology companies, among the top 3 people, you will only find Indians. Whether you talk of Google, you talk of Amazon, you talk of Twitter, you talk of Facebook, any company which is worth its while has got a lot of Indian faces who are leading these enterprises. I would say in the last 1 decade, because of the nurturing of the systems which you are now nurturing, there is clearly reversal of talent which is happening, and a lot of people are coming, and that's how these numbers of 115 unicorns and so many unicorns and so many startups which are happening, because this ecosystem has got created now, and it will take us time, I'm sure, but we are on the path. Second thing I would say that, our capital markets, the way they have got developed. So when I came in the market cap was only $150 billion. Today, we have $5 trillion of market cap. All happened over the last 30 years. Even pre-COVID, the number of individual investors in India were less than 2 crores. Now that number is 12 crores. The demat account holders are 20 crores. The market capitalization pre-COVID had fallen to $1.2 trillion. Today, it is in excess of $5.5 trillion. So we have made a lot of progress. But traditionally, our market and the ecosystem has not kind of supported loss-making companies. And so there is very limited number of companies which have got access to the kind of capital which is required to actually build enterprises of large scale. But I see that is changing. If you see the number of companies which have got listed from the new economy in the last, specifically in the last 5 years, it really gives me a lot of hope and also makes me proud as an Indian that we could also have a Zomato, we could also have a Policy Bazaar, we could also have a Paytm in this country which are homegrown enterprises which are leading by way of technologies. So, there is one more thing, the Modi brand of India. 10 years back, people were only perceiving India as a low-cost manufacturer, wherein clearly the Indian goods were not kind of accepted and respected around the world. But today, when we go, even as a normal citizens outside India, we are truly respected, we are honored. They know if an Indian has come, he has something to offer, and he is really purchased also. When we go to a store also, we are being looked at a different respect now. And over the last 10 years, whatever efforts which have happened have clearly put us in the global map, and I must say our Prime Minister have had a significant role to put India in the last 10 years in the global map. Lot needs to be done, clearly, and I think SIDBI, personally I've been associated with SIDBI and honored to be a part of SIDBI in a small effort from my own side. But SIDBI has done tremendous effort in encouraging smaller companies and making sure that capital of all kinds, now startup capital, debt capital, enterprise capital is all available. And even the biggest change which I saw, at least from a capital market perspective, now there are 1,300 companies which have got listed in MSME and in the SME exchanges. So this is very significant. And I'm sure this number can go 10 times, can go even 100 times in the next, 10, 20 years. Why this is significant? Because a lot of these companies do not have any access to debt. They don't have any collateral. So they can't go and borrow 10, 20, 50, 100 crores. But this listing in the exchange, and some of these companies, even we are looking and we are investing also, they are beautiful companies. They are small. But every large company which has become large was small at some stage, right? So this holds a lot of promise, and this exchange is a lot of promise for a lot of these enterprises to actually flourish in times to come. I would like to give 3 examples which are extremely satisfying that what India can do. If you look at what Adani Green is doing in Khavda, the size of the site is 5 times larger than the Paris city. I repeat again, the size of the site in which they are developing this is 5 times larger than the Paris city itself. What Reliance is trying to do, the size of that site is 3 times larger than the Singapore city. So it is not that we do not have global enterprises. We have exceptional global enterprises which are being homegrown, and this has all happened in the last 20 years, right? If you look at the Ola Giga factory, all of us will be very proud once it rolls out 100 gigawatt of Indian manufactured cell coming out of this one single factory will be possibly the largest single location factory, homegrown without any technology transfer from anywhere in the world. So there are many examples like this which has happened in India, which all must be taken note. They are Pied Pipers. Ours is a country when one person becomes successful, then lots of people would like to follow. That is what exactly happened in power sector. That is what is happening in solar sector. So some of these companies which have become big, they will be the torch bearer and Pied Piper for a lot of our enterprises to come. Sir, when I go abroad, one thing which truly satisfies me, and I really feel proud as an Indian, is the enterprise of our entrepreneurs. Hey, you can see it everywhere. You can see it in a small way. Even when you go to Nariman Point, you can find 2,000 entrepreneurs doing their living in a small manner, in a small area of 100, 200 meters. And that India is really failed, and that number is spoken about how many SME and MSMEs are there. So we must, I think, take a lot of satisfaction from the fact that a lot of progress is being made. Lot needs to be done from the government side, specifically the investment which I mentioned on the R&D. Maybe since we have a 2% CSR which is made compulsory, sir, it might be a good idea to have a compulsory investment in R&D from all the enterprises, whether it's small or big, and it is kind of dedicated. And that's how we will move from a small service nation to a product nation, because to become a product nation, we'll clearly need to invest much more in R&D than what we have been spending. So just to conclude, I would like to say that we have made reasonable progress. Government efforts have been tremendous in last 10 years. Obviously, a lot more needs to be done from the government and a lot more needs to be done from the corporate side. But giving what an Ambani, Adani, or so many startup companies have done in India, it gives me a hope that India will clearly see many more companies in the global map, and all of us will see really proud. Maybe it is a matter of time, maybe it will take 10, 20 years for us to be really there. But we are certainly making progress. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Kela sir. Now, let's welcome Shri Gopal Srinivasan, CMD of TVS Capital Funds, for his address. Sir.
Mr. Nagaraju, Mr. Mittal, and all the distinguished members of the banking community who have come here today. It's my privilege to be here. And the best part is, even if I say nothing, I've said it all because it's been covered so well by everybody else. So I will just speak on only one subject, right? First, I'll take a contrarian view. I think India has global champions. Actually, it does. When I look back over time and I see companies which are listed in the Nifty 50 today, like, for example, Sun Pharma, or if I take Apollo Hospitals, or if I take Dr. Reddy's, they were all small companies at one point in time. I don't want to say TVS because we were small 100 years ago. But lots of people in the last 30, 40 years have come, and they've come despite all the friction and challenges that they had to face. My guru, C.K. Prahalad, always used to make this statement to me saying, Gopal, the next generation of freedom fighters are the entrepreneurs of India. They fight against all odds. And ladies and gentlemen, you are the cheerleaders, you are their financiers, and the number of schemes that Ms. Nagaraju talked about is mind-boggling to me. It's not the lack of government schemes, I can say, has any effect on this industry. I think there is a lot of work to be done. India has always got a missing middle. When you look at this M, S, M, E, actually it's all S. All the numbers are only about how big the S is. If I look at some numbers somebody gave me today saying, look, only 480,000 small businesses out of 67 million contribute 12 trillion out of 26 trillion rupees and so on and so forth. India has got a missing middle. And when it comes to the large companies, India has got a missing middle as well. How long can we keep examples only of Ambani, Adani, Tata's, L&T? I think we need to have 100 such examples, and that is the direction for India. A country so big cannot afford to have just 4 or 5 companies which we keep talking about. And I do hope with all the efforts that the government is taking, banks are taking, and of course my favorite feels like home place, SIDBI is taking, and I'm surely in the next 10, 20 years we will see the emergence of these companies. We spoke about startups. I'll just go straight to that subject and I'll leave my entire talk on small business alone. We spoke about startups. And today, if you look at it, the so-called unicorns as well as the listed startups put together, I think account for about 15, 16 trillion rupees of market cap. The unicorns are about 7, 8 trillion, and the listed companies, we take Policy Bazaar, Eternal, Swiggy, and so on, is about 7, 8 trillion. So it's about India has created a lot of value in terms of startups. But what is the criticism? We only do quick commerce, food delivery, financial services, and nothing else. Zero innovation. But ladies and gentlemen, if I go to SIDBI and go for a review with Mr. Mittal's team, the first question they ask me is, Paisa kitna banaya? That's what they ask me, and that's the right question to be asked. So people in the investment community have invested in those startups which they think will make money. There's nothing wrong about it, right? They use Saraswati to meet Lakshmi. That is what their business is, right? Now the question is, are we going to stay in that era forever? Or are we going to go, as my friend Madhusudan Kela said, become a product nation? In the last 20 years, if you take Series A, B, which is really where the startup investment takes place, roughly about 14 trillion, which is I guess $170 billion or so, have gone into startups. And all of it has gone largely into these areas. What we call IT sometimes is mainly the consumer technology companies like Swiggy's and Zomato's. I've invested in PhonePe. I've invested in many such similar companies. And today I think was what? Urban company issue, 1,900 crores, I think oversubscribed 100 times in day one. Again, another consumer company. And this is what I think very correctly the Honorable Minister, Mr. Piyush Goyal, took up this time during the Startup Kumbh Mela. Kumbh, I think what is it? Oh, Startup Kumbh it's called. Mahakumbh. He talked about that and said, why is India not doing it? And I think let's spend a few minutes on why. We've talked about R&D investment being less than 1% in India, and that too, in that 1%, 65% is public sector R&D, it's not private sector R&D. You take all your IT companies, their expenditure on R&D is next to nil. To the point they're actually buying back shares rather than having ideas to put that money behind it. Infosys is buying shares. I think somebody else is also buying shares. What does it say? That there are not enough ideas in innovation, in which this money can go. But I think that page is turning. And that page is turning just like we had the so-called Jam Trinity when Modi ji first came and heralded this massive change. I think now we have a new Jam Trinity. To me, it is ANRF with its 35 to 50,000 crore grant money that they're using, which has an outstanding team, an outstanding CEO who himself has 75 patents to his name. Now the R&D Innovation Fund, I hope it will come through in a manner where 100,000 crores of funding over 5 years, that's 20,000 crores a year of innovation, equity, debt funding in a country that does not fund more than 50, 60,000 crores of domestic money a year in terms of AIF funding. The third one is all the grants that are going. Ms. Nagaraj, you talked about PLI and DLI. Today, for example, there was this big event with AI event, which Minister Vaishnav gave away so much of new GPU money. I see this as the new Jam Trinity. All the government missions, the RDI fund, and the ANRF. I think this is going to make a lot of changes. Already you're seeing patent activity surge in India, not because of it, but it will surge even more. Patent activity has surged 4 times in India, roughly, in the last few years, last 5 years or so. I think 100,000 patents, right? If you take GitHub, the maximum number of filings of AI uploads into GitHub are from Indian IP addresses, right? Deep tech startups are now beginning to file patents in this country. I think 12% of patents in FY24. So many incubators are coming into India, right? There's even a word, I was in California recently to study what's happening in AI investment because I'm keen to invest in that area. And what I was told is, I don't know if it's true, every 7th line of code written in the world by a human being that is actually written by an Indian. Another statistic is that of 200 billion tablets out of 300 billion tablets swallowed in America have some Indian API content in them. So there is a huge amount of change that is beginning to come to India. And I think we are at the cusp of that change. What we need to do in this room is to embrace failure. Because what we need to do with the R&D Innovation Fund money is to take crazy risk. In fact, Ms. Nagaraju, my suggestion for the fund was, you have 50,000 crores, put 3,000 crores in 50-year bonds. You'll pay back the entire money in 50 years. Take the balance money and take crazy risk. I think we need to enter into era of risk. America has roughly 8% of its GDP going in VCP money. India last year, all VCP money, if I take even real estate, infra, all put together, is roughly about 4 trillion rupees, which is like, what, 1% of the GDP? We need equity funding, we need debt funding, we need MSMEs to get private credit with guarantee schemes like the CGMSTE or whatever that means, but basically the guarantee scheme. We need this reservoir to open, the risk reservoir. And I think that is the call for India. If we are going to get even to 3% of GDP, we'll be funding 10 trillion rupees instead of 3 trillion rupees or 3.5 trillion rupees. SIDBI, what SIDBI has done through the government for India is something, in my mind, like a massive Jandan event. I am told, Mr. Mittal, according to my former SIDBI people who work in my team also, 108 individual startups have been funded by SIDBI. A total number is 200 plus. SIDBI's FFS scheme created the VC industry in India. I don't think that's an overstatement. Because of that, 8 times more money was gathered from other LPs in India. This is the movement that is, in my mind, just a small green shoot. We need to see funding in India of VC, PE, credit to grow from this measly amount of 2 to 3, 4 trillion rupees to 10 trillion rupees. I think that and that alone will be the magic solution. Let us take risk, let us embrace failure, but in embracing failure, we will actually see not only national success, strategic success, but also financial success. And I just think the RDI fund, in whichever way, the courage of India to come and say, I will give 20,000 crores of equity and debt funding to innovation in this country, I think is fabulous. It's not an India that I could have imagined, and it's an India I'm delighted to be a part of. So my my thanks to SIDBI for everything that they've done and the government of India in putting the scheme together. It's been a very democratized, we all now are reading this person whose name I cannot pronounce, Darren somebody, who talked about power and talked about growth. And he talks about inclusive institutions. And I think what is unique to India with the public sector banks in particular and SIDBI is that you have been inclusive institutions. You've taken banking, debt to the nooks and corners of this country. And if you believe that inclusive institutions build great countries, gentlemen, you're doing that, and ladies, of course. So thank you very much. I don't have much to say other than take crazy risk, give lots of money to VCPs, and our Indian entrepreneurs will solve all the problems. Thank you, and Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir. Let us all give an applause for all the speakers. I kindly request all of our guests to come back on the stage for a brief session of question and answers. Sure, sir, we can do it from there. If anyone here has questions, I'm sure there are many, please raise your hand. Our team of volunteers will come with a mic to you. There's one here. Please do state a brief introduction about yourself when you're asking the question.
Hi, this is Anil Tarak. So, beginning of the session, Mittal sir spoke about a lot of value being created through startups in the developed market, particularly US and Europe. And the later part of the conversation, Gopal sir spoke about a lot of work being done in tech sector actually. So just want to understand, is SIDBI doing something in tech sector particularly?
Can we get one more question? We'll get all the questions first and then the speakers can answer together.
Hello. My question is also on the same subject. I'm Niranjan Narkhede from E-Gears Private Limited, and I'm happy to tell that this SIDBI has helped me 10 years back for putting my engineering company basically in new technology. And 2015, my turnover was around 15 to 20 crore, and now we are 600 crore company. So thanks to SIDBI for encouraging this. And right now we have launched one more technology company that is in semiconductor field. But it is again a MSME. As Mr. Mittal has said that MSME people make one more MSMEs and keep on doing such things. And our main challenge right now, it's the R&D base. Right now, whatever the semiconductor plant is coming in India are very big plants. Our size is around 70 to 80 crore investment. But being a first generation entrepreneur, I am lacking in collateral security. So I came here to understand how SIDBI can help us, how this R&D fund, right now innovation fund is proposed, will help us in long term, and we are eager to make see us as a global champion. So how SIDBI and our great government can help us, that I want to understand. Thank you.
Maybe a couple of more questions?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm A.K. Pathak from Bank of India. So my question I've been taking from Mr. Madhu's his speech. He has given statistics about R&D, and okay, we are not spending enough in R&D. It's 7% in US and less than 1% in India. It remains a lament. I would like to know, are there any specific steps suggested by him to increase the R&D spend, and that too especially by private sector? One of the things I am taking you again from Mr. Srinivasan's speech, okay, he has told about embracing the failure. I think as a mindset, we need to have, forget about embracing the failure, at least we should be tolerant about failure. That's a big deal, because not only entrepreneurs, even those PSU bankers, if any failure happens, it is not only stigmatized, many a times it is criminalized also. Thank you.
Anyone from this side, maybe one or two?
I have a question.
Yes,
Hi,
please.
I'm Trupti and I lead sales for India from TransUnion Sibyl. Yeah, let me just come here. So, first of all, we've been around for 25 years and we've worked with every financial institution present here, along with SIDBI, to make credit possible to the MSMEs. So my question is, what more do the dignitaries here think we can do together as a credit information company to make credit possible to the interiors and rural areas? What is the expectation from CICs that we have?
Maybe one more question?
So, Mr. Kela, would you like to respond to this, Kela sir?
So, I've already kind of suggested that, we need to, because Mr. Raju himself is here, so I've suggested that we need to possibly make a CSR kind of initiative to really have R&D culture being built in India. Right now we are seeing over the last 10 years, the CSR culture is actually getting built. People are actually genuinely spending money for CSR purposes. So if I just do the number, even 1% of all Indian corporate profits, if they are invested into R&D, that number will be significantly larger than what this R&D fund is going to do to India. And second, I would agree with Mr. Srinivas' assessment that we need to embrace failures and need to encourage risk-taking. Obviously when you do R&D, there is no guarantee that you will be successful. But out of 100 people who try, even if 5 become successful, it is worth the effort. Thank you.
So for this, would you like to?
Sure, sir. Another question about what SIDBI is doing about the tax sector. So let me say 2 parts to it, actually 3. One part is, of course, equity. So through the AIF route, and we are promoting investments in that. And second part is we are open. There are good MSMEs and there are equity options. We have started an equity division. So we are willing to take bets on that. And so we will be investing in MSME IPOs, and otherwise also we'll make you equity ready. So fine. So there are tech companies, there are high growth companies. We are willing to have a look even at the equity. Debt, of course, debt is guaranteed by CGTMSA. There is no need for any collateral up to 10 crore, and for export oriented the limit is much higher. And otherwise also SIDBI takes bets on the technology companies for the debt part of it. And so there are certain new technologies we have promoted in the country through risk sharing facilities we created in partnership various institutions, particularly in the area of climate finance and all. So wherever the high risk was being perceived, bankers were not very willing to go ahead with that. We created additional risk sharing, partial risk sharing facilities in that. So any this kind of a thing, if it's a technology, we are willing to participate in debt or equity or even some kind of a mechanism, ecosystem development mechanism as well. And the next big thing which is going to happen is about this RDF, this 1 lakh crore thing. And that's where you would find a lot of money being spent on the R&D, and I'm sure SIDBI also will have a role to play in that. And particularly, as I said in my talk, there are sector-specific funds coming now. For example, if you have got deep tech. So deep tech, now there would be a big money available for the deep tech. Now it's being defined for the first time what's going to be deep tech. And petroleum, the whole value chain, there is going to be a separate fund for that. The space tech, there is a separate fund, Antariksh, which is being managed by SIDBI. So there is a lot of availability of the funds. There is no dearth of it. It's now happening, and probably in next 6 months you will see a lot of action in this particular front. Yep. Yeah, please.
I'd just like to add a point, if I may. Basically, when I said crazy risk, what I meant is what is the difference between a startup and a small company? A startup is somebody who's willing to take equity capital risk for innovation, growth, or both ideally, whereas a small business cannot take that kind of risk. Therefore, the risk spectrum is very important to understand. For example, if you look at the equity, you take risk with equity, but you cannot take risk with the debt. Debt is a different end of the spectrum. Supply of such a large amount of equity will increase risk-taking appetite. And by slicing funds into venture, growth, etc., we are providing solutions across all risks. And the portfolio effect of diversification from an investor point of view, the successes compensate for the risks, right? And I think, as somebody very correctly put it, criminalization of not paying money is something that I think the government has now changed some 300 or 400 rules to decriminalize, and more decriminalization is necessary when people are unable to pay their debt back for very good reasons of business failure. Thank you.
I think that was all the questions. Thank you so much. We now move towards the end of the event. We would like to present mementos of thanks to our distinguished guests as a token of appreciation for their presence. May I request Sri Manoj Mittal to kindly present a memento of thanks to Sri Nagaraju. Now I request Sri Prakash Kumar, Deputy Managing Director of SIDBI, to present mementos to Sri Madhusudan Kela and Sri Gopal Srinivasan, sir. I request Sri Sudhata Mandal, Deputy Managing Director of SIDBI, to present the memento to Sri Manoj Ayappan, sir. I now invite Sri Sudhata Mandal, sir, for his vote of thanks.
Respected Secretary Sahab Shri Nagaraju, JS Sahab Shri Ayappan, our esteemed speakers Shri Gopal Srinivasan and Shri Madhu Kela, distinguished guests, my dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, wish you all a very good evening. It is my pleasure and indeed an honor to deliver the vote of thanks on behalf of the organizing team and SIDBI for today's inspiring event on nurturing global champions from the Indian MSMEs and startups. First and foremost, I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to our chief guest, Sri Nagaraju, for sparing the time from his busy schedule and gracing us with his presence today. Sir, as always, your address was both inspirational and motivating. You mentioned the example of Mittelstand of Germany. Germany for a very long time has been the global role model in creating the MSME ecosystem. There are several such MSMEs in Germany who are actually global leaders. So you also mentioned the word hidden champions. The term hidden champions was actually coined by a German management scholar, Hermann Simon. And borrowing that term, hidden champions, the Export-Import Bank of Korea, Exim Korea, had set up a scheme for promoting the SMEs, the high-tech SMEs in that country, with the objective of making them one of the top 5 players globally in their respective fields. We in turn borrowed that idea from there, and thinking that there could be an IPR around that word hidden champions, we didn't want to use it. And of course, to give it an Indian flavor, we came up with the scheme of Ubharte Sitare, which you also mentioned, sir, for helping the Indian SMEs who have the potential to go global. And therefore, the term Ubharte Sitare, that they can become the Sitara of the world. It was started in a very small way. It had a debt component, an equity component, and a technical assistant component, both by SIDBI and Exim Bank together. But we need to expand that substantially to create many more such champions in the country today. So your words not only enlightened us, but also ignited a renewed sense of purpose in our journey to empower future global leaders. I also extend our gratitude to our distinguished speakers who brought in the startup perspective and shared their invaluable insights, experience, and wisdom. Madhusudan, you mentioned about the Harvards and the Yales and the huge corpuses that they have. I'm happy to share with you, perhaps you're already aware, that SIDBI in a very small way has set up corpuses with several incubation centers in the country across the top-notch academic institutions for investment in such early seed stage startups who get incubated in these incubation centers. And several very good investments in deep tech startups have also been made. And we hope to enlarge that scope. But SIDBI on its own perhaps will not be able to meet the entire requirement. I would urge the entire banking fraternity here to also step up their efforts in financing such very early stage startups, seed stage startups, so that the ideas that are there in the academic institutions across the country, not only in the top tier institutions, but as well as in the tier 2 or tier 3 institutions across the country, to nurture that talent, those ideas, convert them into commercial ventures, and therefore meet the vision of turning India into a product nation rather than a service-oriented nation. You also mentioned about the CSR kind of stipulation for R&D, if we can mandate a certain percentage of the profits to be used for CSR activities. Maybe we could also think about reimagining the end use of CSR funds, because many such early seed stage startups who are in the incubation centers, particularly the students, the ideas, and of course we are also talking about deep tech startups, innovation-led startups. That is the segment which requires patient capital, where you need to be invested for a longer period of time to generate returns. And the commercially oriented venture capital sector may not be the right investor or the right provider of capital for these very early stage startups or innovation-led startups. So whether we can utilize the CSR funds towards this kind of a venture to fund the village level enterprises, even at the village level enterprises as well, that is something maybe we can think about. A big thank you to all our distinguished guests for not only gracing us with your presence, but also your enthusiastic participation and engagement. Your ideas and commitment to growth are what make events like this meaningful. A special thanks to each and every member of the SIDBI team for their tireless efforts in making this event seamless and impactful. It has been a fantastic event, so please take a bow. Last but not the least, a big thank you to our technical and support teams for ensuring everything runs smoothly today. As we conclude, let us carry forward the spirit of this event to nurture, to inspire, and to build a world where MSME champions are not just born, but made through vision, values, and relentless effort. Well, it's now time to relax, chill, circulate, renew old friendships, and make new friends. Kindly join us for refreshments followed by dinner. The refreshments will be served to your left, where we had the high tea, and thereafter followed by dinner, which will be to your right. There is a dinner lounge there. Once again, many thanks for joining us here and making this event really successful. And Mr. Mani, thank you so much for being here. Gopal, and your speech was really very inciting. We got a lot of insights. You talked about taking risks, and that is something which we really need to do. Risk capital is something that we all bankers collectively should look into how we can create such pools of risk capital, which can encourage the startups and the first-time entrepreneurs to come up with their ideas, to commercialize them into products. And that is how we'll be able to nurture them and lead them to becoming the global champions of tomorrow. Once again, thank you for joining us, and have a lovely evening. Thank you.
Thank you all. As Sudhata sir has already told us, we are concluding the formal proceedings and the dinner is served outside. Please do join us for this and continuing this conversation further. Dinner and drinks are served outside. Please do help yourself.
सोच मत उधर हाँ हंसी आ जाएगी